The wine world is a colorful place. There are tens of thousands of producers all around the globe. The wine media usually focuses on the small artisanal producers who get their hands dirty in the vineyard and meticulously watch every barrel during fermentation. But the truth is that a large chunk of the wine that is being consumed comes out of the cellars of a few dozen wineries. Some of them are family businesses and others are publicly traded companies. What unites them is that they are producing oceans of wine and sell them to millions of thirsty customers in markets from Chile to China. Us wine nerds often look down on the big wine brands and call their products industrial wine as opposed to the more natural wine coming out of the smaller estates. I don't like that distinction, as no wine is natural and no wine is industrial. All wine is made from nature's fruit by humans and is therefore a cultural product, an agricultural product. Bigger producers are often more risk adverse and therefore more likely to use methods and additions in order to stabilize the wine, trying to avoid oxidation, re-fermentation in bottle, or precipitation of solids. That is not necessarily a bad thing. It might strip away a little bit of personality, but it also increases the chances that you're able to enjoy an unspoiled bottle. Also, the big brands might not represent the pinnacle in quality, but they are often the first wines people taste, so it's very important that that first taste is something enjoyable and not repellent. I therefore asked Leon to buy some of the most widely available wine brands for me to taste and rate blind. He selected wines for this blind tasting from something called the Wine Intelligence Global Wine Brand Power Index, which ranks the most well-known and most respected big brands. These are wines that every one of you should be able to get in your markets, that is, as long as you're not living in North Korea or Iran. So let's find out whether there's beauty behind the big brands. All right, we're starting off with wine number 1, white wine. I would say wine 1 is pretty pale in color. It's like a pale golden color. It looks fine. It looks like wine. It sort of has this fruit salad flavor. It's quite aromatic, quite juicy. It's actually quite nice. I mean, there's pineapple there, and there's a little bit of apple, pear character coming through. There's some slightly more exotic flavors, a little bit peachy. Nice. On the palate, there's actually quite a lot of like juiciness, sweetness. So it is a little bit cloying, and the fruit flavor is actually less well defined on the palate. So, but overall, this is a really clean, juicy, fresh wine style. And I guess like if you serve this and tell people it's a Riesling Cabernet from the Mosel, they probably enjoy it, even like soms or wine nerds. The issue for me with this wine is that it just doesn't have a lot of length. And yeah, on the palate, it's a little disjointed. But apart from that, it's pretty good. I will rate this 81 points. I think it's good wine. And I'm going to say this is probably like a Liebfraumilch, a German white wine, entry level, with a little bit of residual sugar, little harshness, low alcohol. But yeah, it's overall it's pretty good. I mean, it's not good, but it's good in the context that this is probably like a mass market product, retailing at a fairly entry level price. On to wine number 2. Another one under screw cap. So this is already a red wine. So the first was the only white wine, I'm guessing. So the wine is actually, yeah, like ruby in color, not super light colored, but it's not concentrated in color. I can see my hands through, barely, but I can see them. It smells of black currants, but the ones that you get fresh from the bush, so not necessarily crème de cassis, not black currant liquor, more like the fresh black currants that also have a little bit of herbaceousness to them. So this actually tastes more like a mass market product than the previous. So the fruit character is a little bit cooked. It tastes a little bit stewed. So it's not as precise as you would want it to be. There's also this kind of combination of very ripe fruit and a little bit of green herbaceous notes that aren't necessarily well balanced. On the palate, it's actually very polished and round. There's quite a lot of body. The tannins are there, but they are very much polished, so they are not grippy at all. And the acidity is not really present, so making this wine taste a little bit sweet. So this is not really a wine that I would enjoy. I mean, I can see how some people might like it because it's not a very challenging red. It's a easygoing red wine. I think you can serve it chilled and drink it without really thinking about it. But I don't really like the roundness, the lack of vibrancy and liveliness on the palate. I'm going to rate this 76 points. I mean, it's solid. There are no flaws there. It's clean, but it just doesn't, it's not really appealing. So on we go with wine number 3. Another red, another like slightly lighter colored red wine, but very different in flavor. This is actually much more tuned down, a bit more refined. There are cherry flavors coming through, a little bit of strawberry character, some blackberry notes as well, but it's quite elegant. I would definitely be in the old world with this wine. This feels very European, and I'd actually say this feels quite Italian to me because there's like this cherry fruit flavor, there's good acidity, there is a certain liveliness there that you often get with Italian wines. Yeah, I would say this is a Sangiovese-based Chianti Classico style wine, and it's actually quite nice. I mean, Italian wines don't always have to be great in order to be enjoyable. Like, picture yourself with a glass of cheap Chianti somewhere in a trattoria outside on the terrace, eating pizza, pasta, whatever, and drinking this in the sun. That's La Dolce Vita. So I'm going to say this is 81 points for me. It's good. Let me get a little bit more of that. That's wine number 4. So wine number 4 is a little bit darker, not super dark, but a bit darker. Quite intense, ripe on the nose. So this smells of cherries, blackberries, a little bit of oak flavor as well, like a little bit of cigar box kind of flavor. Quite nice. The tannins. Woo. They are intense. You know, those tannins are really, really grippy, a little bit unripe, definitely quite challenging. I mean, there's definitely a bit too much structure here. I mean, like, give some of those tannins to wine number 2, then this might be more enjoyable. And number 2 would maybe also be more enjoyable. So I'm thinking this could be Bordeaux. Like, sometimes entry-level, mid-level Bordeaux can be a bit rustic, and that definitely has some of that. So this could be like a Mouton Cadet. I don't really think that those tannins will go away over time. I think this is just a wine that you should drink as it is, and maybe eat some steak with it in order to mellow out the texture a bit. So I'm going to rate this 79 points. It's good. I mean, the nose was actually quite nice, but the tannins that's just too much. So let's move on to wine number 5. This is probably the darkest of all of the wines. I mean, color is not that important, but when it comes to quality and red wine, I mean, usually really good red wines made from dark colored grape varieties tend to be quite dark because they are fairly concentrated. So you have a lot of skin for just a little bit of pulp in order to get more structure, but also get more aroma out of the berry. But yeah, I mean, with those entry-level wines, obviously they tend to crop at higher yields. So you have more water in the wine and therefore usually a bit lighter colored reds. But that doesn't mean a lighter colored red can't be great. I mean, the top Pinots from Burgundy, they are all lighter colored, but they can be extraordinary. You know, I was a bit worried because I had a cold and I was using some eucalyptus-based lotions. And I thought, well, maybe that impacts my smell and taste for the next few days. But I can smell the eucalyptus in here. That's for sure. So there's eucalyptus, there's brown sugar, there's a little bit of chocolate, but there's also some fruit like prunes and blackberries. quite intense and concentrated, rich, but very very made. This doesn't feel like a terroir wine at all. I mean, the other ones also didn't quite, but this is certainly something that was heavily influenced at the winery. Very juicy, round, rich, and concentrated. There's actually quite a bit of acidity there as well. I mean, I think I can spot a yellowtail when I have it in the glass, and this, my friends, is yellowtail. To be fair, I kind of knew that this would be in the tasting because it's the biggest, or one of the biggest for sure, brands in the world coming out of Australia. I mean, you've all seen the bottles, but yeah, this feels very much like a really mass market, well made, but really made red wine from Australia. You know, this is not something that I would drink, but I know that it's something lots of people enjoy because it's just rich, powerful, concentrated, and there's quite a lot of sweet flavor coming through as well. So that's just what most people like to drink. Me personally, not so much. I'm going to rate this 77 points. I mean, it's well made. There's no flaws there, that's for sure. But it just doesn't really have a lot of, it doesn't really have any character. It's a bit of a zombie wine. So here we go, wine number 6, another red. And I wonder, are there no big brands, apart from that one, that are white wines? I'm pretty sure there are. I actually can't think of too many, but there are. I mean, most of the big brands also produce a white wine, but most of them are also more well known for their reds. So I'm not really sure. I'll check later on. Okay, wine 6 is also fairly pale in color. It's ruby, but you can again see your fingers through the wine. It's not very aromatic. I mean, there's a little bit of cherry flavor coming through, a bit of strawberry character, so it's actually quite delicate. On the palate, it's quite rustic. I mean, the acidity is a bit sharp, and the tannins are slightly harsh. So yeah, I mean, it's not a good wine. It's a decent wine, but it lacks expression, so it's actually quite thin and a little bit rough. So what could this be? I mean, I have no idea. I think it's European, and it feels like it's from a moderate to warm climate, but cropped at very high yields, so you don't really get a lot of concentration there. And yeah, it's a bit bland. I mean, it could be Italian, maybe from the south of France somewhere, but it's not really speaking to me. So I'm going to rate this 74 points. It's really average. But again, not flawed. There's nothing like wrong with it, but it's just not, it's no fun. Whew. I mean, we had better tastings on this channel. Let's put it that way. Wine number 7, the last. All right, this is the darkest wine. So this is quite dark purple. And it smells quite interesting. It has this flavor of cassis, a little bit of black chocolate, but there's also this mintiness coming through. So it combines fresh fruit flavor with a little bit of spice and a little bit of herbal characters. On the palate, this is rich and juicy. There are tannins, there's acidity, and there's body there. It's actually really nice red. I mean, obviously this doesn't feel like a high-end red wine, but it feels like a pretty damn good one, especially after tasting quite a few not so exciting ones. So I'm going to rate this 85 points. It's pretty good. And it feels Chilean to me. I mean, it feels like a Cabernet from Chile. Because of this ripe fruit, the dark color as well, the mintiness that comes through. Shall we have a look? So let's go with wine number 1. The only white wine in this big brand tasting. This felt like a Liebfraumilch from Germany, like a entry-level, off-dry, but quite enjoyable white. Let's see. The Black Tower. This is actually, I think, a brand that people are more familiar with abroad than in Germany. I don't think this is actually sold that much in Germany. I mean, even here the label is actually in English, so I don't know where Leon got it from. But yeah, this is Black Tower, one of the most widely distributed German wine brands, I think. So this is 9.5% of alcohol. It's the 2021 vintage. It's fruity. It's a fruity white, like it says on the label. Fruity white. Check. So let's move on to wine number 2. I thought this was, a bit more commercial in style. A bit too round, a little bit too flabby. I thought it lacked a little bit of verve in order to make it really exciting. But well made nevertheless. So, Barefoot. Merlot. So this is actually a brand made by Gallo, one of the biggest, if not the biggest winery in the world. It's actually still family owned, based in California. And this is one of their brands. I mean, Barefoot, I don't know when it was launched, but not so long ago. And the wines are everywhere. This is, it tastes like juicy red wine from a warm climate, but it definitely doesn't have all that much character. But what can you expect at that price? I mean, I'm going to put all the wines with their wine searcher link into the description, and you can check what the price in your market is. So let's move on to wine number 3. And I have no memory about wine number 3. So I think wine number 3, I actually thought it was from Chianti, and I quite liked it. It was one of the more highly rated wines. It was juicy and fresh and good, well made. So not quite. So this is not Chianti, it's Rioja. It's not the first time that I'm confusing Chianti and Rioja, but this is actually a pretty nice brand. Campo, Viejo, and I guess this is their entry-level kind of wine. No pronounced oak notes. Usually you can tell Rioja from other regions, as it is aged in American oak barrels oftentimes, and then you get those vanilla flavors. Not too much vanilla on this one. So let's move on to wine number 4. And I thought this was Bordeaux. I actually liked the nose, but the texture, the tannins were just too much to bear. I can handle some tannins, but this was kind of like really harsh tannins. Not nice. But I thought this was Bordeaux. I actually said Mouton Cadet, so let's see. Bing, 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 bing. So it was the 2020 Mouton Cadet. Apparently this is the 90th vintage. Quite a historic brand, really well known, obviously related to the Rothschild family of Mouton Rothschild. And, well, I prefer Mouton. So wine number 5, I was actually quite confident that this is Yellowtail. And you can hate this wine, of course, but it's definitely not a badly made wine. It's just very made. Like, there's too much makeup on this wine. So let's see. And it is Yellowtail Shiraz. I got 100 points here. Thank you. So let's move on to wine number 6. I didn't really know what it was, but it was a bit bland and a bit diluted. So I didn't love this. So this could actually be the Chianti as well. Yeah, it could be. Let's just find out. The bottle shape definitely doesn't say Chianti. So but it is Chianti. It's the Ruffino Chianti 2021. Yeah. Again, if you're in Tuscany, sitting somewhere on the terrace, eating good food, this might work. So the final wine, number 7, the high scorer in this tasting with 85 points, a wine that I would actually recommend and a wine that I would drink a glass or 2 of. And it is Chile. It is Chilean. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon from Casillero de Diablo, and it's really well made. It's great stuff. I don't know how they do it in Chile or in South America in general, but it seems to be easier to make high quality wine at a large scale and an affordable price than in some other countries of the world. But yeah, out of this lineup, I would actually drink this. I would drink this, and I would drink this. They're not great wines, but they are good wines. And considering the price point we're in, they are actually also representing good value, and they are showcasing their region. I mean, for most of those wines, I actually was in the right country or region. In some cases, I even knew what the wine was, which makes it a bit difficult to argue that those wines don't show any terroir. I mean, they do, just maybe on a larger scale. Something to think about. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please like it down here. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. My question of the day is, what is your favorite big brand wine? Let me know down in the comments. I hope I see you guys again very soon. Until then, stay thirsty.